Hi, folks. My name is Girish, the host for Back to Basics, another Back to Basics for another week. Today, we're going to be talking about hypnotherapy. Yes, that's right, hypnotherapy. And it's really a taboo topic, not a taboo topic. I really don't know. That's up to you to decide. But it is something that we discuss all the time. And it seems that it's beneficial, not beneficial. You decide. And that's what we're going to be discussing today. And today I have a guest of mine, and we're going to be talking about that. And her name is Kim. Amazing person. Chatted with her maybe a month ago. And then we had some technical difficulties right before the call. Amazing person, very enthusiastic. And she said, I think I need therapy even after this episode. So why don't we just bring her online and why don't we talk to her and say what's on her mind right now. So Kim, how are you? And thanks for Basics.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. Yes, we did. We had our technological challenges, and now we're ready to go.
Yeah. So thank you again for coming here on my show. Before we start with this whole hypnotherapy and everything else, what we're going to discuss and what you do and what you don't do, what does Back to Basic mean to you?
I love this question, and I think I was making it much more complex than it needed to be, and it is about back to the basics. So I stopped myself, and here's where I landed with that question. I think back to basics for me is really simplifying how I make decisions in my life. So when I'm making a major decision, I ask myself if I'm making this decision out of love for myself or out of fear. And that is a very simple way to kind of call my own to call myself out on the carpet and figure out if I'm making the right decision for me and not letting fear or risk or those types of things stand in my way.
Thank you again, Kim, for answering that question. When I actually invited you, and on the calendar there was a question as to what does Back to Basic mean to you. You actually said it's an amazing opportunity to help and listeners understand the reality of benefits of hypnotherapy, and I think you still believe that. Am I right?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I think when I think of getting back to the basics, I talk about how to kind of simplify things in life. But yes, absolutely. Any opportunity to talk about hypnotherapy and talk about mental health, and do so in a way that makes sense to people is absolutely so important to do, because I think it's top of mind for so many people, and people really don't necessarily know what to think about it. So I love the opportunity to try to bring it down to the basic level of understanding.
Yeah, thank you again, Kim, for answering that question. So let me ask you this first question before we talk about the other stuff, right? I'm pretty sure people they know what hypnotherapy is, but what does it mean to you, and how do we explain to people that what is it all about?
Right. I like to think about, I mean, I think, it's one of those things you ask a question, probably you could have a million responses on what people think hypnotherapy is. But to me, the way I like to explain it is that it's a very focused and concentrated state of mind. Okay. So what that means is basically a good example is if you've ever driven to work, like let's say you drive to work every day and you park and you don't remember the drive. That is sort of the state of mind that you're in when you're in hypnotherapy. It's a very focused state of mind. Or if you daydream, or you read a book and you're captivated, and someone asks you a question and you don't hear what they ask you. That's a good way to think about the state of mind that you're in when you're in hypnotherapy. So it's just very focused and relaxed and concentrated.
So is it pretty close to, let's say, a meditation, or this is totally separate, or it's a different level of it?
Yes, it is actually, I would call them sisters basically. And what you're doing with hypnotherapy is you're working really with the subconscious to make positive suggestions, and to eliminate limiting beliefs, and emotions and behavioral patterns that don't serve people. So it is a little different in that vein, whereas meditation is more of a passive activation, if you will, of the subconscious. This is much more active with regards to helping eliminate things that just don't serve us in our lives.
Yeah, Kim, thank you again for explaining that. And I want people to understand what is it all about and what is the differences between the meditation and the hypnotherapy. Now, let me just ask you this. Now, I'm going to go step by step if that's okay with you. If I go to a doctor's office and sit down on the couch and they do this, moving the thing around you so then you get dizzy and then you faint away, is that true? Is that how it actually works? How they show us in the movies and the TV shows?
No. That's an excellent question. Not at all. Not even close. So basically, what it is when I work with someone, what we do, it's really a partnership. So if someone comes to me and they're having, let's say they lack confidence, or they're stressed, they're depressed, they have insomnia, there's just a number of things that they could be experiencing. So we really talk and get to know one another, and from there, based on what they're struggling with, what their goals are, I will write a session. And in that session, what we do is an induction. Okay. And an induction is basically getting into that very focused, concentrated, relaxed state of mind. And there is no watch involved. It's basically just listening to the sound of my voice. So my voice is the tool that I use to hypnotize people.
Yeah, thank you again. So basically, you're saying 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you have a keyword, and then it just turns on to something else. Is that how it works?
It's basically just getting people to sort of focus in. Like I ask people to look up and find a spot on the ceiling, and then like they're looking into their eyebrows, and then I take them through just breathing in, relaxing, breathing out. And we do a little bit of that. And then I ask them to close their eyes, and they just listen to the sound of my voice. And so I will take them through a deep relaxation and get them more and more relaxed to where I'm basically putting their consciousness, their ego aside, and I'm working with their subconscious. So it's sort of it's called the theta level of consciousness, where, your subconscious, I don't know if people know this, but that is where your guidance system is. So it is basically where every memory you've had since your first breath is. It is where your emotions and your behaviors and your beliefs about yourself live. And that's why it's so powerful when you work at the subconscious level to help people get rid of what doesn't serve them and move them forward to be more empowered and able to deal with whatever it is life's throwing at them.
Yeah, thank you again. When I said movies and TV shows, the first thing came in my mind with this whole thing is Inception. Inception is, I think, one movie I felt is pretty close to your definition. Am I right or am I wrong in that?
Wow. Well, Inception. Inception is a mind-bending movie. But it is. I mean, if you want to relate it with regards to just being in a relaxed state of mind, that is where the parallel is. That is sort of where it begins and ends with regards to Inception. But yes, it is listening to hypnotherapist's voice and relaxing and getting into a state of mind where you're opening someone to take positive suggestions.
Yeah, thank you again for that example and I guess my analogy too. So thank you again for that. Let me ask you this here: a person who has a light-mindedness and a strong-mindedness, right? Does that mean that am I easy to be hypnotized or am I not? Because I think there's a certain way, a certain wavelength, right? So can you explain that a little better if you don't mind?
Sure, absolutely. Anyone and everyone can be hypnotized. I want to, that's absolutely possible. Some people are more emotional and some people are more analytical. Okay. Emotional people tend to be hypnotized maybe a little more easily. However, for the analytical mind, the person who wants the proof in the pudding, so to speak, there are ways to induce that person that basically gives them the proof as to why they should allow themselves to be hypnotized. So you're answering the question, if you will, if you allow yourself to relax, you will. So you're giving the proof, like you will, eliminate the problems that no longer serve you, or eliminate the problems that you have that don't serve you in your life. You're giving examples as to why it makes sense for their brain to allow themselves to be hypnotized. And I mean, knock wood, so far so good. I have not had a person not be hypnotized to date. So So I think, everyone has the ability, regardless of how analytical they are.
Yeah, thank you again. Sometimes I feel that if people they want to, let's say, quit smoking or quit some bad habits, they go through this hypnotist therapy, and then there's a key word to say quit or something like that, right? Does is that also a part of this whole therapy stuff?
You can give what you call sort of a post-hypnotic suggestion. So if someone were to want to quit smoking, for the example that you gave, you could give them a word, and every time they heard the word quit, say whether they said it to themselves or heard it out in the world, it would just re-emphasize that desire to quit. You know what I'm saying? So you can give suggestions that try to sort of emphasize what suggestions you provided to them in hypnosis. You can give people an anchor, so to speak. So if someone is really experiencing stress, the anchor I like to give is where they put their forefinger and thumb together. And every time they do that, it compounds, so it gets stronger and stronger. So when people are out of hypnosis and they're in life and they start to feel that stress, they use that anchor and it allows them to relax. So yeah, there are ways to provide anchors and post-hypnotic suggestions to help people moving forward with regards to whatever issue it is they're dealing with.
Yeah, thank you again, Kim, for explaining that. Now, is it safe to say that they really want to get into the deep sleep and they've never got to it before? Is it safe to say that?
Well, it's not sleeping, so to speak. It is a level of relaxation. You're not asleep though. So the subconscious is not a sleeping state. It's below. There are various stages of your consciousness, right? So think of consciousness and subconsciousness. It's sort of different. However, I will say, if you're listening to, like if you're doing self hypnosis or you're listening to hypnosis when you go to sleep, there are all kinds of wonderful hypnoses that you can get on YouTube, so to say, and I use them, right? If I'm having problems sleeping, your brain will still hear, you will hear that, and your subconscious mind will hear it, and still get the benefit of it, even if you are sleeping. So in hypnosis, if I'm speaking to someone, they're very, very relaxed and their mind wanders, that's okay because the subconscious mind still hears everything I'm saying, even if you're not necessarily aware. And I know that sounds probably a little strange, but that is how it works.
Okay, so let me ask you this. Okay, so it's going to be a few part question. Now you're saying that they're not sleeping, but they're actually subconsciously they're in a different level. So does that mean that they're sleepwalking? Because they're still thinking that they're walking, right? That's one part, and the answer could be no. It's just a question, and the other is that do you think they remember if they're in this level? Because I have been told in different definitions on the websites and all the research that I've done, it seems like they don't remember certain things because they're a different level of not sleeping. They're kind of awake. So, what are your thoughts on that part?
I think that's an excellent question. The thing about hypnotherapy is that you're always in control. So I'm not, if I ever said something that would go against, what would be, a basic fundamental right of yours, you would not do that. I like you're always in control. So I kind of view sleepwalking as different because there is a lack of awareness with regards to remembering things. Some people remember everything coming out of hypnotherapy and some people don't. And that's okay because your subconscious recalls it. Um, you know, so the benefit is there regardless of the memory. And the interesting thing about hypnotherapy, it's really less about the memory and more about the emotion because it's the emotion that's driving the behavior. So what we're trying to do in hypnotherapy is to eliminate the emotions have that are holding you back in your life in whatever way, shape, or form that is. And then, helping you move forward with just, suggestions of how to manage stress or how to deal with depression or whatever the goal is for the hypnotherapy. to move forward and not have those negative emotions that have been tied to a specific memory or a specific experience in life.
Yeah, Kim, thank you again. So let me ask you this, let me give you an example. Okay, a scenario. A person who goes through a certain trauma in their life, whatever the situation is, very tragic, trauma, and they cannot remember certain things. Is this the right therapy to do to open, let's say, the firewall in their brain and the memory just to get in to remember that, or is that a separate therapy altogether?
Well, trauma is very interesting because you have to be very careful with people who have suffered trauma because PTSD. I do treat people who have PTSD, and the thing is that the main thing with PTSD that you want to be able to do is to get the person to disassociate, to disconnect from what happened to them. Because the way that I've read about it, the way I've had it explained to me with PTSD is it's almost like it never leaves the short-term memory, that it's just there almost on a loop. And you never really process it. So it doesn't go into the long-term memory. You're not necessarily able to cope. So what I try to do when I'm dealing with people who have trauma, I don't want them to relive the trauma. I want them to disassociate from the trauma. They're aware of it, and we can't change what happened to them, but they don't feel the negativity, the triggers, the angst, of whatever it is that's coming up for them that they're continuing to live with as a result of whatever happened in their lives.
So you're saying that look at the situation from as a third party versus the victim itself. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, almost. I mean, when I'm working with someone with PTSD, one of the therapies that is very common and is to have that person recall what happened, but by watching it on a movie screen. So in the hypnotherapy, they're imagining and watching it on a screen versus experiencing it, because the goal is not to have them experience. The goal is for them to watch it and to remove the association with it. So that is a way that you do that with regards to people who are suffering from trauma.
Yeah, Kim, thank you again for explaining that because I'm pretty sure there's other people out there besides myself thinking the same thing, the same questions that I have. So thank you again for explaining that. Now, the other thing is, Kim, can we explain to people what do you do and what type of questions you get in your therapy, so then we can get a better understanding of Kim besides me asking you questions. So Kim, go for it.
Well, I appreciate that. I work with a variety of people who are experiencing a variety of issues, right? I work with people who, like I was saying, who have insomnia. I work with people who are sad and depressed, who are lonely, who are angry, who are lost, who have experienced trauma. I work with cancer patients. So there is just a very wide spectrum of the type of people that I work with that come to me. Some people just feel like they don't know necessarily how to feel their joy. Like they're going through life, but they're not happy and they don't know why. And so what I do is we really do deep dive with regards to what they're experiencing. And a lot of times what has happened to a person has happened back when they were younger. Okay. And so when we're children, we just don't have the wherewithal to know how to deal with things that happen. It doesn't have to be trauma. People always assume it has to be this horrible traumatic event. There are many people who have lovely childhoods that I work with, but there's something that happened. There was an experience that led them to believe to basically, it's one of three things that it boils down to. It is, I'm not enough, I'm not lovable, or that's not available to me, I'm different. That's really where the three things that kind of are the guiding system. And what happens when you're a kid is that whatever it is you're experiencing, you're just coping the best way you know how. But maybe a parent says something to you and you feel the way you interpret it is that you're not lovable. And that stays with you. And so you go through and you have behaviors that manifest for your entire life. They're the result of not feeling like you're lovable. And so what I do with a person is that I will basically regress them back to the first memory, to where they felt like they weren't enough or weren't lovable or whatever it may be that's causing them the problems that they're having today. And once we get to that memory, keep circling back to it. And what we do is every time I circle them back, I negate the emotional impact of it. They still have the memory, but they don't have the emotions behind it. So that's not going to have that horrible impact that it has on their entire lives. And it's very interesting once you do that, because it's almost like putting together the pieces of a puzzle. Because you may not, a lot of times people have no idea what that memory would be, and they feel like, well, how would I ever know what it is? Well, your consciousness doesn't know, but your subconscious knows it like that. I mean, it goes straight to it. It's just fascinating. And then people are left with sort of after that session that we do, the next couple of days, they'll think, oh my gosh, I've done this and this and this and this. And it's all because I've spent my entire life not thinking I'm not enough. So it is a really fascinating process. But I will say, from the first session to, say, the third session, a person can completely transform it. And that's what's such an amazing process when you talk about hypnotherapy.
Kim, thank you again. The more and more you talk about the situations that you have heard from other people, it sounds like that this is kind of how stereotypes are kind of born, isn't it? What do you think of that?
How stereotypes are born in what way?
So let me explain. So let's say more and more I tell my kids that they're going to be weak when they grow up, or they're not going to make money, or they're, just like what Frank says on Who Wants to, what's his name? Everybody Loves Raymond, that, you're such a Nancy, like that, those type of statements, right? That's where those stereotype comes in. So what do you think of that?
Yeah, I think with regards to what that type of feedback does, especially to a kid, is that it makes them believe that. So if a dad calls a son stupid, like, you're so stupid, right? Now, that might just be in just a moment of rage, right? The kid's done something really dumb and they say it out loud, not meaning to create such an impact for a person for their life, but that kid will internalize that, and they will move forward in their lives thinking, I'm stupid. And then they will go out and self-sabotage. They will prevent themselves from being successful because they're stupid, and that's what they've been told, and they believe it. So it's that kind of thing and that kind of impact that you see in people's lives.
Yeah, thank you again, Kim, for explaining that, because you know what, it sounds like that's how it's kind of be. I mean, it's from the home, right? I mean, that's where it usually starts. So I think the more and more we say positive statements versus negative statements, then kids will be a little better. I mean, that's just my thought process, and it'll make your life easier in the long run. So Kim, thank you again for answering that question. So before you leave today, I have just one last question. Now, what do you see Kim for the next 5 more years? Because you have done so much, and I've seen your work, and I've contacted you directly, and that's why I wanted you to be on my show. So, what are your thoughts on your 5 year plan?
My 5-year plan is to help as many people as I can. Right. I mean, this is my mission and my goal in my life, and what fills me up. So I just want to help as many people out there that need help, and I want to bring more information to people with regards to what help is available to them. Because really, for me, if anyone takes anything from this, is that if you need help, then get it, ask for it, because a lot of things are available to you, whether it's, psychology, psychiatry, hypnotherapy, counseling. You don't have to go at it alone. I don't think anyone's born with the tools to know how to deal with everything life throws at them, right? There's no shame in asking for help. So for me, 5 years from now, I hope I'm doing therapy all the time, hypnotherapy. I hope I'm doing it in greater amounts. I would love to be able to bring it to the masses, so to speak, and just feel like if I can just help, just continue to help people. That's where I want to be. I want to spend the rest of my life doing this. So
Yeah, Kim, thank you again for coming here and making this brighter for me. And hopefully, in those next 5 years, if you come back again to Back to Basics, just to make myself, loved and shared and support. Thank you again for coming here. But before you leave, uh, and I know that you have already said some last words to all my viewers and my listeners, but how was your trip on Back to Basics so far?
Oh, I mean, I love this. I love having a conversation with you, and I really appreciate the guests that you bring on. So I feel very flattered that you thought of me, because I get so much from the conversations that you have, because it is so relatable, and it's just so relevant to our lives. So I absolutely love the experience. I'd come back anytime, of course.
Yeah, thank you again, and we'll definitely do this again. We'll make sure that there will be technical difficulties next time when we speak, because I think that's just how we connected, even before the recording, or I should say, even during. No one will ever know, but but thank you again, Kim, for coming on the show and making this brighter for me. And God bless, and we will definitely stay in touch.
Well, I really appreciate it. I really do.
Thank you so much, Kim, for coming here. So, guys, we spoke with Kim today, and we talked about the basics of hypnotherapy. That is right. And you know what? The main key out of this whole thing, which she has actually explained, is be kind to each other, speak nicely, and that's just the only way to do it, right? I mean, that's just my analogy, and that's my definition of how I designed this whole episode. Now, as usual, as always, there is a quote of the day, and hopefully, my guest Kim will like this quote. And the quote is, self discovery is the best investment that you can make. Now, that is so true, isn't it? Invest on yourself and be kind and be grateful. And I think that's all we want. Now, as usual, as always, what do we always say at the end of the episode? Everything in life goes back to basics, and that's what we did today, guys. Guys, take care. God bless. Keep on commenting on all my episodes, including this one, because it helps me day by day, week by week. By your support and your love, it makes me stronger. And there are three things in every episode, including this one, makes it a hit for me, that is, which is the content, the guest, and definitely the host. Guys, take care. God bless. And I will see you next time on Back to Basics. Stay blessed and stay blessed. Take care. Next week's episode on Back to Basics.
I'm known to say, don't make a big, hairy deal out of everything. Let's just take a breath, take a step back. I think so many times we think things have to be complicated to work. And I'm here to say, pish, 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 pish. It's those few moments we take every day, just a few moments, a minute here and a minute there, to decide how we're going to show up in the world in a positive, powerful mindset. And I spent my entire